Alrighty. Alrighty. Vigilante Williamson here on the 102nd episode of my show, the Vigilante Williamson Show. It should be what? I can't think of the date. I mean, look. This isn't live, but, whatever. What does it say? 23rd? So it'll be the 24th. Monday, April 24th. In the 102nd episode of the Vigilante Williamson Show, the Reboot episode of the show. It'll be the first one on the new channel. I actually put it on the old channel as well. And hopefully I'll also have uploaded the video explaining what happened to the old channel. So thank you. I'm doing a new format, I guess. I'll probably still do some live episodes because that was the core of the show. It used to be basically a live news show where we did it pretty much every day, talking about news stories, maybe with a little more of a conservative slant at the time. Went from that to kind of just a general show. I'll obviously do the Sunday night games, which I'll be doing right after this. And so now I guess this is just going to be format general, still probably general. Talk about what I want to talk about. I'll probably deal with some news stories. I mean, we have a kind of a mix of stuff. I'm talking about the Tank and Ryan fight, the NBA, my Texas Showdown placement and stuff like that, and a few other things. And so thank you for this journey, or thank you for coming for now editing it out. Thank you for coming with me on this journey. I really appreciate it. It's my first time being on camera in a minute too, so I was a little nerve-wracking, but it was weird. Like I was me looking at the little OBS thing, and I stood up for a second to kind of put the mask on. I was like, oh, Vigilante Williamson sat down. I was like a whole different dude, which it isn't. But like I said, first thing I wanted to talk about was actually Tank and Ryan. If you don't know, which maybe you don't, and I know not everyone in my audience is a boxing fan. Gervonta Tank Davis and Ryan Garcia had their long-awaited fight. Would have been yesterday for me. It'll be over the weekend by the time you listen to this. On Saturday, April 22nd. And I was entertained by the fight. It ended in the 7th round when Gervonta hit Ryan with a pretty devastating body shot. But, I'm of the opinion that if Ryan Garcia wanted to get up, he could have. He looked directly at the referee. The referee said 8 with usually a standing 8 count. He said 8 almost to, hey, if you want to get up, get up. And he didn't, but Ryan was able to get up at 11 after the count was out. That said, he did show a lot of class in defeat, and even Tank showed a lot of class in victory despite a lot of the heated back and forth really over the years, and especially over the promotion of this fight. One of the bigger boxing fights in a minute, because boxing is notorious for not making the fights they need to make, because there is no Dana White, there is no Adam Silver, there is no what's the doof from the NFL? Roger Goodell. Anti-football pussy. That's what I keep thinking of. Shout out to Matt and shout out to John Gruden's crazy ass. But yeah, there's none of that. As bad as Don King was and still is, because he's still around, he kind of was that. Him and Bob Arum kind of were that in the 80s and 90s. And so a lot of fights did get made. Now, in the post-Mayweather era where everyone wants to be undefeated, we don't see as many of these fights where two undefeated guys who are still young. I don't know if Ryan's in his prime. And I'll talk about that a little bit. But close to their primes, and putting on a fight. And it was a good fight, Earlier in the fight, Ryan got knocked down too by, really to me, what looked like a more devastating shot to the head, but he hopped up after that. He won kind of the first round, the 6th round. The rest definitely went to Tank. Tank definitely showed how good of a boxer he is. Tank is definitely, in my opinion, the face of boxing. That's what they said this is for. I'm taking him up on that. Devastating fighter. Shows that he's more than just a knockout artist. He kind of showed in that Rolly fight. But he's showing more and more how high his boxing IQ is and how devastating a puncher he is. So that is definitely still the case. Mayweather, I still don't know what is going on with him and Mayweather. He was supposed to have left, but Mayweather was still there, and LB was still there. So I guess he's still with the Mayweather camp. We didn't see May do the promotion with Oscar, which would have been kind of cool to kind of relive their battle back in, was it 07? Reboot. It's like a reboot of everything, right? So that would have been cool. But we didn't get that. So whatever. It was still cool. But kind of fall out of the fight. There was some interesting thoughts. At the time, I was watching over my brother's house, Vigilante, and we were just like, man, I can't believe Ryan quit like that. I can't believe he quit. Like, God damn it, he could have got up. He didn't. And I'm not the only one. A lot of the internet is like, oh, he's a quitter. I can't quitter. And that was my thought initially. And then, more time passed. One, you realize how fucking disloyal his whole squad is, man. Sheesh. I heard rumors that he wasn't training, and now I'm starting to see why. I don't think Joe Goosen, who looks like Jeremy Clarkson's effeminate cousin, I don't think he was not the trainer that night for Ryan, man. There was no sense of urgency in his voice. I don't remember everything he said, so maybe he did mention, but it's like, hey, I don't know why Ryan, with the height advantage, is walking forward on one of the best counter punchers on earth. He should be walking backwards. Maybe he can't fight on his back foot, which means he's not trained properly. Because he showed he can crack too. He showed he has speed. And he had the length advantage, and he didn't really use. He tried to at times. He doesn't. It seems like there's a lot of boxing basics he doesn't know. Like, do you know how to box off your back foot? Do you know how to tangle up? You know what I mean? He clearly, in the cases where, because in the second round where he got knocked down. He was on the attack. He was aggressive, and then Tank would tangle up, and he would throw these temple shots. He was still aggressive. He was like violently aggressive, and it looks like he was about to hurt Tank, and then ran into a counter punch, got plastered, but hopped back up. But after that, lost a lot of his passion. Wasn't as aggressive, even though he kept walking forward. So it made it even worse because he's walking forward not with aggression, and he's tentative. It's like, no, you either stand still or go backwards because you're the taller guy. So I don't know. It seemed like he didn't have the right direction, didn't have the right training. But then, after I said he showed class, his team didn't. No one from his team except, Oscar didn't show up. Bernard Hopkins didn't show up. His trainer, Gooseman didn't show up. There was some executive from Golden Boy that showed up. And then just before I hop on, I see, shout out to Counterpunch Boxing, I saw a video where one of his sparring partners said, oh, I'm sorry for hurting you to the body. It's like, God damn, did he have anybody loyal? No wonder he, came out to that crazy, sad, Taylor Swift sounding song. You know what I'm saying? Wow, Tank is coming out to Sosa with Chief Keef. And you know what I mean, all this energy, and he's coming out to this sad song. It just put me in mind of that Mad World by Gary Jules, just like all around me are familiar faces. It's like he's coming out all dreary. He had a dreary attitude, and I see why. He was surrounded by fucking snakes, at least from what I can see. You know what I'm saying? And, back to the knockdown, I had this thought of, you know what I'm saying, was that him quitting? Did he give up? And maybe he did, but was it a reasonable tap, so to speak? Thinking back, I think it was year 2000, Andrew Galata versus Mike Tyson. And this, wasn't prime Mike Tyson, but he could still crack. And Andrew Galata, I want to say it was in MSG, Madison Square Garden. And he just walks out the ring at somewhere. I can't remember. It was later in the fight. But he doesn't want to get off his stool. His fucking trainer's trying to get him to go in. He just leaves. And they're throwing trash at him to throw it. This one fucking red drink or whatever hits him kind of famously in the shot. I may edit stuff in. I don't know. So yeah, maybe edit it in. And he's, disgraced. Oh, man, he quit, But you find out, oh, he had a fractured orbital bone. He was concussed. Well, obviously, you're a boxer fighting Tyson. Heavyweight boxer at all, you probably concussed. Boxer at all, you're probably concussed after the fight, Not only that, he had 2 broken vertebrae in his neck, so he legitimately could have died. You know what I'm saying? So he actually made the right call by quitting. If you're talking about his life and longevity and being alive, he made the right call. And actually, is he still around? Hopefully he is. As far as being alive, a lot of people, people do pass. It's a brutal sport. And so I'm thinking, like, man, did Ryan, maybe he made the right call by, quitting if he did. And don't get me wrong. I understand body shots are devastating. People get stopped by body shots all the time. But back when I was kind of against them, that first few hours afterwards, I kept looking up other body shots. And when you see somebody who gets stopped on a body shot, they're usually writhing in pain, like they can't move. He was up. He was looking at the referee. He was looking at Tank. He looked like he wanted to get up at one point and then just decided not to, and he hopped up at 11. So I think it's a reasonable ask whether or not he quit. But even if he did, man, there's sometimes you got to live to fight another day. And that's a hard thing to kind of suss out, right? Not just in athletics, when we look at someone else. We kind of think, wonder that about ourselves in life, right? I've thought, should I quit this, right? Because is this worth doing? Obviously, you're looking at me, so I haven't. But you do have to wonder, as I try to make the logo, you know what? Fuck Carhartt. You know what? I was about to show the logo. Fuck them. You do have to wonder sometimes if you're on the right path, if you're making the right decision. Grandma used to always say, nothing beats a failure but a try, or a quitter but a try. Like, you have to try, right? And you do have to try. But you do also have to, in life, figure out when it's time to stop, when it's time to go in a different direction, when it's time to, when you've had enough. That's a hard thing to balance in a way, right? And so that's in that moment, I think most people would quit. Let's be honest. 99% of the population on Earth, they got hit with a shot like that, especially if what the sparring partner, the turncoat sparring partner said was true, where he was already hurt to the body, which means also he has an issue protecting his body. Like, he has a lot of issues. I think Ryan Garcia is, but I'm like, man, he also has some talent, man. If he was more active, if he had better training, if he had a better team, maybe he'd be a better boxer. Who knows? I can say about a lot of fighters. But that's the hardest thing to kind of know in life. I think as a man, you're taught, rightfully so, never to give up, especially because life, some things you have to be persistent. You have to go forward. You can't quit. You're not allowed to quit. At the same time, you got to know when to hold them and know when to fold them. You got to know when to make decisions, when to leave something. We're going to talk at the end of the show about a very toxic relationship by way of Pink Book lessons. I may even bring up the video. Very messed up ending to someone's life. And, I'm not sure if there were red flags there, but sometimes when you see red flags, you got to leave. When it's time to go, you got to go. And when is quitting a reasonable decision? That's a very hard decision to make. Going back to the Ryan Garcia, he could have got up. He could have got up. He could have tried to, survive the round. And maybe he survives the round, comes back, hits Tank with a counter shot, you know what I mean? And pulls the upset later in the fight. Who knows? Or maybe he gets up and he gets plastered into next week because he's still, I definitely think that body shot caused him some pain. I definitely think, especially my brother said, he started to think that Ryan was getting winded. So he wasn't, so it goes back to his training, which some is on him. I'm not going to put everything on his trainer, but some is on him. But whatever the case may be, maybe he gets up and he gets his head knocked off. You know what I'm saying? So we all like to think that we were just the toughest one. We're the alphas, right? We're the alpha males with our cigars, and we're gonna be the ones to fight through the pain. And that ain't always the case, man. Somehow I caught the greatest fucking algorithm in YouTube history with shorts, and I saw these crazy shorts, people flipping and shit, and people robbing places and saving themselves, crazy shit. Speaking of which, one of those cases, there's a guy, I think it's in Britain, he robs a place, and a guy comes from behind, basically kind of chokes him out and takes the gun. It turned out to be the plastic gun. Kind of takes it. It breaks it, and the guy, fucks off. And in the comments, it's he should have gave him more punishment. He should have beat his ass. Like, hey, let's just be happy nobody died, bruh. You know what I'm saying? Everybody from their keyboards and from their phones is the toughest, baddest motherfucker on earth. But reality is like, just try to stay alive, man. Reality is self-preservation is a skill, man. That's the reality of life. Everybody wishes they were Billy Badass and the toughest motherfucker and beyond the pale straw, but that's not how humans really are, man. We are fucking frail. We're flesh. And when you're in the heat of the moment, knowing when to hold them and knowing when to fold them is a skill to have. And yeah, listen, some people have, even Ryan himself in a previous fight, I think it was Luke Campbell, not Uncle Luke. Shout out to that, me so horny. But no, against Luke Campbell, I think a similar thing. He got hit by a body shot, fell, got up and won the fight. This time he gets hit with the body shot, he doesn't get up. Knowing when to hold him, when to fold him is a skill. Ryan's a young man. I wish him the best. Tank's the man. I'm still a huge Tank fan. Wish him the best as well. I hope both have great careers. I don't know. Maybe a few years later, maybe Ryan fights, gets a little bit more seasoned. Maybe now that he doesn't have that he can take a little bit more risk with his career. Maybe, fight some tougher opponents, both at 135 and 140, maybe even 147. A lot of these guys are going to get up there. Him, Shakur, Devin, you know what I mean? T.O. even someday. So, maybe and these are other guys you might want to get in the ring with. And shout out to Ryan for taking a rehydration clause, doing it all he could to make this fight. He deserves credit. Tank deserves credit. Both deserve credit. Both teams making the fight deserve credit, but Golden Boy, shameful on you guys leaving that guy out there to hang and dry. Didn't want it to be a circus. Just own up to the loss, just like he did. He's the youngest one out of you, but he's the most mature. It's a goddamn shame. Goddamn shame. Speaking of goddamn shames, next topic we're also going to stay sports related. NBA, the NBA. I got a lot of thoughts on the NBA. We've talked a little bit about it in the game streams. Talked about Jokic. He's doing a pretty good job so far as of the time this is being recorded. Again, this is the 23rd. You'll see it on the 24th. Denver, last time I checked, was up 3-0. I'm not sure if they've swept the Timberwolves, but, And Murray has also helped. Murray's a really good player, and it was good to see he's back and he's helping. But I've been somewhat critical of Jokic last year winning the MVP. I definitely think he deserves it this year because he's having an incredible year. But I don't know if he necessarily deserved it last year, and I don't know if it should be so unanimous. I think Giannis and Embiid have had good years. The past 3 or 4 years, these have been the top 3 players, especially in the regular season. So, the MVP, for him to win 3 straight, it's like, it's not quite telling the story accurately of how good Embiid and Giannis really were. So, but this one I definitely think he deserves. Last one I didn't think. This one he definitely does with his numbers. So, shout out to him. There's a lot of smoke. Some of it's racial and all this other stuff. Some of it's just general smoke because he hasn't won. And for him to go out and be dominant in this series it speaks volumes. Other things is happening, and this is really what led me to want to talk about this. While I'm over Broja Landy's house, we have the Lakers-Grizzly game on a different monitor, and the referees, man, it's just... We've talked about sports being rigged. I probably one day will do a video on Donaghy, breaking down that Donaghy documentary and why I know sports are rigged because of it and how it pertains to things. And, man, the referees have just made the NBA a very hard-to-watch product. I can say the same about the NFL. We just came off a Super Bowl that ended in fucking a penalty. Listen, I'm not saying everybody should be the crazy conspiracy theorist in a mask like I am. But if you think there's no rigging in sports, bro, I got a bridge in Brooklyn to sell you. And a lot of it's ratings based, man. I was talking with my brother because like there was some crazy exchange towards the end of that game. First off, it started off with this big blowout, and then as it goes down the stretch, John Morant starts getting hot. You know what I mean? He scores like 20 points in the fourth to try to bring the game closer. During the stretch, as much shit as people talk about LeBron James and the Lakers getting calls, LeBron goes to the basket, no call. Ja goes to the basket, gets a call. This is during his run. Later on, LeBron gets this gift call when he goes to the basket. It's just like, what is going on? Then all these different technical fouls, and every 5 seconds it was a foul and the referee coming to or a challenge. And it's just like, this is unwatchable. This is not, or a bunch of missed threes back to back. And I know these are the common complaints about the NBA, but it's like, this is not the product I came up watching. Yes, there were tons of foul calls because guys went to the basket, and there was physical play and stuff like that, but not quite like this. And then with the 3-point shot, which it's cool when they're going in and that people are hot and it's fun to watch, but when people are cold, it can be some of the most boring stretches of basketball. On top of that, the injuries, Kawhi Leonard missing games. Oladipo for the Miami Heat. Oladipo and Tyler Hero are going to be out, and sucks for Oladipo, man. His career, he could have been a really great player, and he had a few really good years, and that's never going to be the same. And hopefully he can come back to his role player self because he was still a solid role player for Miami. I think Giannis is out. It's just a lot of injuries. Paul George is out. He's somebody who's questioned. Is low managing actually helping? People are also kind of getting on him because he's doing what I'm doing, podcasting, while he's out. So people are kind of looking at him, but it's also like, what is he going to do? He's hurt. Or is he? You know, that's another thing. Are these guys really hurt? That's another thing fans are wondering. If you're looking at the rig, or you're just looking at the guys not necessarily caring too much about the outcomes of the game because they already got paid. They already got paid, so they don't really care if they win or lose. They don't really care if their team, does well. They're getting their checks. So it's just like the league, things ain't the same for gangsters. You know what I'm saying? The league just not the same. And it's not, just an old man yelling at a cloud. I think sometimes whenever you criticize something that's new, everybody wants to say, oh, you're just an old man. And sometimes that's true. Sometimes it's a valid complaint of somebody who's just out of touch. But we're seeing a league that's just not a good product to watch. I mean, the coverage of the league has become much more about gossip and bullshit. And, the joke is, it was probably shouldn't say the method of how we were watching everything. But there was a chat involved, so you can guess how come that was the case. And the chat was almost a part of the experience. Some of the funny things they would say, because they were probably doing something similar to us, watching a few different things on a few different monitors. But the joke was, how does this boxing match affect LeBron's legacy? Because LeBron's legacy has been this way of spamming consumable content and clickable content. And, every day people watch First Take or Undisputed or First Things First or whatever, all these different sports shows to see people complain or overpraise LeBron. And that's just the thing. That's the spam. How does it affect LeBron's legacy? And apparently, shout out to a lot of our international viewers like Cinch and Dildo and the like, that's the same thing in soccer and football. How does is Messi? I forgot who else, but who's the greatest and how does this affect their legacy? It's the same thing. It's just like, it's too corporate. It's too gossipy. It's too branded. It's like, we just want to see the fucking games. And we're in this weird era where if you're not perfect, you're trash. Russell Westbrook, for some reason, I even called him Westbrook right there, my bad. Hustle Westbrook. For some reason, he's like the worst player ever. Nobody else's turnovers matter. Shout out to 78 Sports, Basketball Facts, some other LDBC guys. What's up, my man name? Too Raw for TV. I'm in their comments, so I'm not going to act like I don't see some of this from them. They've had this take. Yeah, it's like, okay, why is no one else's turnovers matter? LeBron's turnovers doesn't matter. James Harden's turnovers don't matter. Everybody else who turned over or have a bad turnover game doesn't matter. But Russell Westbrook, oh, he's just the worst. He has a 37-point, and it's like, oh, he does this, he does that wrong. It's just like, why? Who picked this guy who's been nothing? You know, say what you will about some of his fashion choices. He's been nothing but a good guy, reportedly. I've never heard any teammate said he was a bad guy or bad guy to play with. I think people get frustrated with his mistakes, definitely, but he's not the only player, like I mentioned. And there's just like, you know, you never hear anything. Most of the time, you hear people like playing with him and like being around him because he's a cool dude, supposedly. You know, I don't know him. I don't know if it matters, but this is just the reports from other players. Yet the media just hates this guy. And it's like, why? What did he do? I have my own theory, you know, but again, not to be conspiratorial. But I definitely feel like there's a lot of players, if you have more of a, I don't want to say masculine style, but, you know, I think even a guy like Luka, I think sometimes get over criticized, even though he sometimes gets under criticized because he's having some of the weight issues I'm having, man. Him and Zion, they got to, listen, I know this food out here in Texas, in the South is pretty good, man, because Zion's in New Orleans. And Luka's in Dallas. I noticed Southern food, brisket. I know y'all eat good, bro, but y'all gotta, you know, get your health right. But just, I think players with a more, I don't want to say, you know what? I will say they come off that Kobe, Jordan type of cloth. You know what I mean? Who I'm going to get it myself. I'm going to be more, I hate to say masculine, but that's the only word I can kind of think of. The media usually has a bone to pick with those type of guys. You know, they really push this real analytic ball. That's why a guy like James Harden doesn't get criticized for a lot of his bad play, even though he's been playing pretty good for the Sixers. He's playing really good for the Sixers, actually, especially this year. I think it's actually one of his best years, despite it not being an MVP year. Just how efficient he's been, good point guard play. But when he was in his shot jacket mode in Houston, it's like, because they're all threes and free throws, he's efficient and is analytically good, so they like that. But when you play with the kind of old school, Larry Bird's another one, I'm just going to take the ball and get a bucket type mentality. KD kind of has that to an extent. I don't think they like that. And so I think that's part of why Westbrook, and plus because Westbrook is kind of a, you know, I hate to say old school throwback, but he's a hustle guy, and he makes mistakes. So that gives them something to get their teeth in. But overall, that's kind of a tangent on the whole thing with the NBA. I really wish the NBA was better. I really wish the NBA had a much, just a smoother product, man. Just call less fouls. The referee can't be this involved in the game, man. I don't even give a fuck if it's rigged. If it is rigged. If it's been rigged the whole time. Go back to more of the old school style as far as just having a more free-flowing game. The referees calling fouls every so often. You know, unnecessary calls. Just really impedes the game. Thinking about shit that used to be great. Not necessarily on a run sheet. We're going to run with it. Wrestling used to be great, man. Wrestling used to be the shit. And I scripted. And what made it the shit was it was simple and it was fucking cool. That's kind of another thing that's not as good as it used to be. I'm really sounding like an old man on the cloud. And this is both organizations, WWE and AEW. And I say that as a guy, my name's Vigilante Williamson. It's inspired by Kenny Omega. So I am not anti the past 10 years of wrestling. I was a huge New Japan pro wrestling fan when they had a lot of the guys they had. I like a lot of the new wrestling. I like a lot of the some of the flippy shit. But it's not as cool as it used to be. It's not as entertaining as it used to be. It's just not. I was watching shout out to, he's one of my favorite rappers now, Duke Deuce. He ran a little fucking angle. I don't know if the guy was a fan. He was just some dude talks shit. Duke hits him with a fucking chair. Somebody else spears the guy. The crowd goes wild. while he's doing a concert. Just this quick little wrestling segment. And it got everybody popped. And I'm like, this wrestling segment is better than 95% of the shit I see outside of certain storylines. There were some good MJF storylines, some good Bloodline storylines. But if we're just talking about, and even, some of the Judgment Day stuff is cool while I'm thinking about it. So again, I am engaged somewhat with the product. When they had the Hurt Business, they were really cool. I really fucked with them. I really fucked with that era of Bobby. Like, that was cool just a few years ago. So there's been cool shit that happens. It's not like there's nothing good about it, but it's just not the same. It's not the same like energy. And is it a lack of masculinity? Is it a lack of vulgarness? Is it a lack of edge? No disrespect to Edge. Again, I don't know. It's just not the same. A lot of entertainment, right? It's just not the same. Some of it we can pinpoint. I mean, we've talked a lot about on this network of channels now about the scripted entertainment business. We talked so much about Disney, so much about Warner Brothers, so much about their failings, giving into agenda, which even wrestling's had its share of, and NBA sports have had their share of, which I think that could be an overstated thing, right? Agenda. It's just like, okay, we'll talk a little bit about the conservatives too, that how that's falling apart with Louder and Crowder. But like, the voice going woke. It's going to be woke. Okay, guy. Even though, listen, a lot of that shit can be annoying. Bud Light, everyone's pissed at that, which I don't really give a shit. I don't drink Bud Light. But, I get it. That the Star Wars, how they fucked up Star Wars for agenda, how they fucked up a lot of Marvel and MCU. I get it. But I think sometimes that can be, that it's more of a symptom than a root cause, so to speak. I think we're in an entertainment business. I guess I started with basketball and wrestling, but it's the whole thing. It's the whole entertainment spectrum. We're in an entertainment business that takes its fans for granted. Point fucking blank, period. Over Bro Giuliani's house again. We're watching like this guy goes to Funko-Land in 2000 and all these other game stores and shit. And then we were talking about how when I had an Xbox 360, you guys remember the red ring of death? Well, there was a warranty for it, so I was able to send it in after it got the red ring and get either a new or fixed Xbox. Whatever they sent back, whatever it was, it worked. And how they were, it's just like the whole arc and the psychology of every entertainment spectrum, whether it was video games, whether it was wrestling, whether it was sports, was we want you fans to like our product. Movies, we want you fans to like our product so we can make money. That was the mentality. Now, and a lot of this is our fault, unfortunately. You buy Madden every year, this is your fault. They expect us to purchase. They take for granted that we're going to purchase because we're interested. They take for granted that we're going to watch whatever the hell they put out because they're Disney, or because they're the WWE, or because you're going to play whatever because it's Bethesda. And a lot of people do. And enough people do that these companies could be billion-dollar companies, and they don't really have to cater. And I think that's why we have a lower grade of entertainment across the board. And don't get me wrong, there's still great movies being made, great TV shows being made. We're also in a place where entertainment, where you got to find things. It's not always going to be as readily available to you. I mentioned Duke Deuce. I don't know if he's on a major label or not. I like his content. I like his music. I like this big guy dancing. You know what I'm saying? I grew up on the music he grew up on, clearly. So I like what he's doing. I've talked ad nauseum about Griselda and Rock Marciano. And, there's a lot of hip-hop, underground hip-hop. Maybe it's overground, it's in a weird place that you can find. You go on the Cocktail Lounge, just shout out to Matt and the guys. There's always a TV show that everybody likes, you know what I'm saying, that maybe mainstream, maybe not. People liked Reacher, people liked what's that shit? Yellowstone, Ted Lasso, a few other shows. So the shows exist. What was that shit? Severance. There's shows that are out there that people like. There's good content out there. So it's not just a clusterfuck, but a lot of it is a clusterfuck. A lot of it's formulaic. A lot of it's reboots or comic book movies or whatever the fuck. And we're not quite getting the catered to product that we used to get. They wanted fans to like their shit, and now they just expect us to like their shit. And then when we don't, they're shocked and they attack us. And that's the new entertainment business. And that's why I want to do music. That's why I want to do different content. That's why I still make content, is even if I don't necessarily have all the answers now, I'm going to keep going till I can provide something to fill this void, if nothing else, for myself and a few people who want to hear it or who want to see it. Because it's just like, man, it's such a dearth of good content. However, on the flip side, I can spend a couple hours, like I said, over the weekend. I spent a couple hours just watching shorts, and I came across some of the most crazy shorts I'd ever seen of this guy, one guy doing these super athletic flips. Talked about the guy robbing a store and saving it. These bear interactions with humans, which were crazy. Just all this crazy shit, extreme shit, car crashes. It's just like you could just be on YouTube Shorts or Instagram Reels or TikTok or some similar platform and spend hours. And there's not one script. There's not one Hollywood, you know what I mean, executive involved with any of it. It's just random shit. And sometimes, most of it is garbage, but sometimes it can be fascinating or crazy or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So now we're in this thing where mainstream entertainment is a lot less appealing than just the entertainment we do for ourselves, through TikTok, through Instagram, through YouTube, through Twitch. So we have become the new entertainers for ourselves outside of the mainstream. And some people are still trying to become mainstream through it. Maybe we can make the transition to Crowder and oh no, Landau, man, Dave Landau. Shout out to Matt again, Fireball Productions. He brought this to my attention. Long and short, and I never watched Louder with Crowder. I made fun of him with the Save Bitcoin today because he was doing the Stop Bitcoin, and I thought that whole situation with him and the Daily Wire, with him complaining about a $50 million contract, was fucking goofy. But it's made even goofier when you find out that he, one of his longtime contributors, Dave Landau, Steven Crowder gave him this really poison pill contract where he couldn't leave on his weekends to do his comedy. He tried to steal his comedy shows that he did. Now we're in this, again, independent era of entertainment, a lot of comedians now are releasing stuff straight to the internet and maybe asking for $10 or asking for whatever behind a Patreon or behind a paywall, or just straight up put it on YouTube and living off the ad revenue, whatever the case may be. But unfortunately, he filmed a special, Dave Landau did, and Steven Crowder owned it, allegedly, or at least claimed to have owned it. I don't know if he actually had a valid claim or not. But that's, all these legal things. And this guy, Crowder, complained about, he's not about the money. He's about a movement and America and patriots and all this other bullshit. Meanwhile, he has a contract, and I joke, but I don't think I'm wrong, that was worse than the contract that Suge Knight was handing out at Death Row, because at least you got your weekends to do what you want and all sorts of stuff. He had to move his family to Texas. He had to basically work 8 hours a day. He said he was coming to meetings. He was coming to work early just to sit in a room and not be involved in the meetings, and all sorts of sabotaging shite. He basically made it out that Crowder is kind of a jealous piece of shit, and he doesn't want to make anyone. He doesn't want anyone to be funnier than him, so that's why they did the meeting stuff. And judging by the contract, he doesn't want people to have other methods of making money. He wants to be the center of all their attention of his employees. So maybe that's why Quarter Black Garrett is now kind of in the fandom. And I guess he has a show on the Blaze. The conservative thing is getting cheesy shit. There's a lot of marketers in a lot of these internet spaces. That's cheapening that whole thing. As much as we talk shit about these corporations, this I know I'm a guy in the microphone and that webcam too, right? But I just hate the idea of I don't care if they're conservative. I don't care if they're liberal. I don't care who they are. They come in, they give you a worst case scenario view of whatever you're supposed to hate and you're ever supposed to dislike. So if it's in a manosphere, they show these crazy single mothers and say, look at these crazy bitches. If they're feminists, they'll show some crazy guy like, look at these crazy dudes. If they're liberal, they'll show some crazy redneck. Look at these conservatives. They're fascists taking over the world. If they're conservative, they'll show some bitch with purple hair ring. Like, look at these liberals, they're a menace. And it's like, it's a work. Everybody, we just talked about wrestling. This is a work. It's some asshole who wants money, and there's no shame in that, except the fact that money it doesn't have any value. But there's some asshole who comes up and just is trying to get you angry so you pay attention to them and give them money. This rage bait shit. And that's really what fucking Crowder did. You know what I mean? He would do this, he's famous from years ago. It's funny how him and Ben Shapiro have made fucking empires off some shit they did in 2015, going to colleges and shit. But the, prove me wrong shit with the little, y'all seen the meme, him with the mug. I forgot what the original was. Was it, there's only two genders? That's what it was. Prove me wrong. And he was able to make this huge empire and really take advantage of a bunch of people who've been fear-mongered, not without reason. There's a lot of evil shit coming from the radical left. But there's two wings. They're two wings of the same demon, man. These politicians ain't gonna save you. But it took advantage of a lot of vulnerable people, not just in his in his company, but in the people who followed him. And he labeled himself, he was basically supposed to be the conservative Jon Stewart, even though he really isn't that funny. And I'm just taking shots at Crowder, but it's not just Crowder. It's this whole internet shit, man. That's why sometimes I wonder if I should quit. That's why I go back to that. I don't want to be an inauthentic product, man. I don't want to be just another asshole rage baiting you. I want to try to entertain, man. I want to try. I don't want to just be, here's a market of lonely men. Let me make content that's going to appeal to them. Here's a market of conservative people. Let me make content that's going to appeal to them. Here's a market of liberal. No, I just want to say, you know what? I'm making content from my heart. Here are the things I'm interested in. I'll talk about them. It could be politics. It could be boxing. It could be video games. It could be sports. It could be something else. It could be relationships. It could be anything, but it's just whatever I want to talk about. I want it to come from the heart. I want to make an authentic product. I don't want to be some asshole telling you how, principles and all this shit matter while I'm recording other motherfuckers' conversations and releasing contracts that should be private and shitting on people who help me make money. I don't want to be that guy. You know what I'm saying? And I'm kind of on the search for trying to normalize and fundamentalize my content. I don't know if that's a word. So it can be, simple for me to make, simple for me to put out, and simple to be consumed. That's why this is even going to be putting clips. And I hope people are cool. 24 if you're watching. Although I don't make every single Primetime Kings. Matt, if you're watching, I know I'm not going to make every single MFer. And, I still want to do the Culture Crime Fighters, even on a monthly situation, or still do collaborative stuff. But I don't, I am trying to focus on myself. I am trying to focus on my content. I don't, please, both of you guys and anyone else who's got used to the whole collaborative thing, and that's his own can of worms with the fandom where everyone just assumes we all collab and we all do the same thing and we all hop on streams and we all do it's like, no. This is not the content I want to make. I don't give a fuck about the entertainment business as much. It's still a thing obviously I'm talking about, but that's not going to be my only focus. So I got to find myself, not to sound like a 21-year-old white chick who's about to get ran through in college. I do want to find my content so I don't become this. So I don't become that. Bro, I was on the path. If I just stayed in the lane, I was on the path to being as evil as a Crowder. You know what I'm saying? I never forget. It actually, something just came up. The shit I'm about to talk about with Rust. aka Alec Baldwin, killing that woman. And my first thought, instead of thinking, damn, Alec Baldwin killed somebody, somebody's dead, that's somebody's mother, that's somebody's who else, or sister, daughter, whatever, dead, I was thinking, damn, I should have made a video earlier. And I'm like, wait a second. As a content creator, my brain is starting to become that sociopathic marketer. And that's the draw content creation. That's the scare in it. That's the darkness in it. There's this sociopathic marketing, gotta get something up, gotta get clips up, gotta be this, gotta do that. And it's dark, man. And I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. Crowder may have started from a genuine place. You know what I'm saying? But somehow down the line, or maybe he didn't start. Maybe he was never genuine. I don't know. I don't know the man. I know he's from Michigan, but I don't know nothing about him. Maybe he started from a genuine place, and somewhere down the line, it's money. It's a lot of money, and it becomes more money and more branded and more control-oriented. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. And that's why I'm trying to keep my content as pure as it can be, if there is such a thing. So yeah, speaking of sociopaths, we're starting to wrap up. Got a few more topics. How much longer? How long we gone? 45 minutes? Okay, we're making good time. I don't want this to be too long. Speaking of sociopaths, I wanted to talk about a dark story I just saw on Pink Book Lessons. Let me see. Should I bring it up? You know what? I'm not going to bring it up. I'll link it in the I'll link it in the description. Check out Pink Book Lessons. It's an interesting channel. Talks about a lot of crazy stuff with relationships, crazy stuff with women, and crazy stuff with men. Just crazy stuff. But its focus is on just the crazy behavior of women for the most part. Because even a lot of stuff that men are doing, well, not all of it, but a lot of it is orientated around the women. But some of it is just, these terrible situations. This was a terrible situation actually out here in Houston, where a woman killed her fiance. And what's crazy about it is she didn't really get that much of a bond. After the incident happened of her stabbing him and trying to stitch him up with which apparently had happened before, with him cutting himself and her stitching him up, whatever the hell. When that happened, it took another week and a half for her to get arrested, even though the police were called the day of the incident. So it's just like, well, why is that? And, the trial, I don't think starts for another few months. Or at least the preliminary stuff. Who knows? A lot of these trials can take a long time to get started and get going. And who knows how it's going to be found. But if we go off of, hat fell off and bald. If we go off, and I guess the logo may be visible. Oh, well. But going off of a lot of history, women are getting away with murder, very literally. Women are getting away with sexual assault in these schools at a high clip. Women are getting away with a lot of crimes nowadays. It is a hidden. It's almost like a open secret in society, domestic violence even. And how did this happen? I mean, a lot of this can be blamed on feminism, whatever. But we're in this weird world where there's the consequences for females and women, female and woman attacks on men are minimal. And anything, even an allegation of a woman being hurt by a man can destroy a man's life. We're looking at Jonathan Majors. He was somehow compared to Ezra Miller. I don't know how, because he's losing everything based upon allegations. While Ezra Miller had factual information telling you some of the evil shit he did, the fucked up things he did, and he never faced any jail time, and now there's trailers for his movie out, and big promotion, and all this other shit, so nothing happened to Ezra Miller, while Jonathan Majors, some girl admittedly lied on you because she's recanted her statement. Now other girls, we saw this happen with Warren Ellis, they were grooming me even though I'm a 28-year-old woman, all this weird shit, and we're in this weird, it's like this very unfair way of viewing these interactions with men and women. I just mentioned talking about relationships. And we're also in a world where men don't talk to women. So it's like, you can see why, right? You know what I mean? I've interacted with a woman who admitted to whooping on a guy. And that's that ended it. And she had some size on her. I wasn't about to tussle with the queen pin from, we'll set a fisk. You know what I'm saying? So like, this is a thing. Women beating the hell out of guys, women harassing guys, women being violent towards guys, harassing younger men, especially women in the education industrial complex, assaulting young men and young boys. That's a real thing, and there's nothing being done about it. Shit, everybody wants to put up some fucking Twitter of some black guy robbing something. And just talk, and I hate whataboutisms myself, and I'm about to whataboutism. So I know, but it's just like this inconsistent, view of the world. Everybody wants to put up a Twitter and say, oh, crime statistics, this, that, and the third. You know what I'm saying? Oh, this, that, and the third. Just harass, black people, this, that, and the third. I see that all the time. And, there are white girls touching little boys, and nobody gives a fuck. And I'm not saying that should be equated or whatnot, or that somebody robbing shit or the shit that goes on in Chicago is justified. It's not. It's fucked up. But we need to have the standard of something when a human being does something fucked up, we say this human being did something fucked up, and this human being suffers consequences for it. Point blank period, regardless of their race, regardless of their gender, regardless of whatever background they have. You do a crime, you do the crime, you do the time. You know what I'm saying? And that's it. And that's how it should be. And that's how society should run. But that's not how society runs. That's not how society runs. So yeah, it's a fucked up story. And sorry to this guy. I know I really didn't cover the case as much. You can check Pink Book Lessons. I don't really want to, it's a very fucked up story because there's kids involved. They had a kid together. If there is a cautionary tale, they got engaged after 3 or 4 months of dating. So you can't be rushing into these relationships, man. I think that's another can of worms. We have this lonely man complex. A lot of lonely men out there. I just did the Texas Showdown. I'll probably talk a little bit about that. I meant to talk about that first. But even my brother joked because he went to it with me. Shout out to Bro Vigilante. He's very supportive this weekend. And he was like, yeah, most of these men have never touched a woman, and that's a safe assessment. And meanwhile, there's a girl fucking walking around with her pussy damn near hanging out on some cosplay. You can see the side. You can see that side thigh. Like, come on, you can't be doing that to a bunch of lonely men. But we do have a lot of lonely men, and as soon as a little bit of twat get put on them, they're ready to put a ring on it because they don't know no better. And the society told them, Disney movies told them they're supposed to just fall in love and protect a woman and do all this, which on some level, is cool and noble, but you got to vet a woman as well. You can't be doing that 3 months in, 4 months in. But a lot of men aren't touching women like that. They aren't interacting with women like that. So, and I'm not saying that necessarily was the case for the brother who passed, or that he deserved a pass over that, deserved to get killed for that. But you do have to vet these women because, I'm not trying to say all women are dangerous, but women are more dangerous now than they were when I was younger. I could say that. And you have to vet that out, and people need to vet people out. Women need to vet men out as well. How many women have this sob story? Oh, he was an asshole. He was a bad guy. And you were dating him 5 years and had 3 of his kids. That's not smart. You know what I'm saying? So you need to vet out who you allow to enter your body as well. But you got to vet these women. You got to, even if it's been a while, even if you haven't been the most active guy out there on the dating scene, you can't jump for joy the first woman that smiles your way because you don't know anything about her. You got to understand who this person is. You know what I'm saying? I think the culture of, Disney movies when we were a kid, the action movies where the guy gets the girl and they just date after like 1 week of a crazy situation. They kiss at the end and you never know what happens to them. You know what I'm saying? And then you toss Tinder and social media when you're an adult, having been programmed by that shit. You have this, take for granted, rush into relationships culture, rush into situationships, rush into sexual situation, sexual encounters, and act like there's no, it's just sex. No, it's not. There's a connection. There's a spiritual connection. You listen to the Bible, it'll tell you you become one flesh with somebody, and technically that person's supposed to be your wife. You know what I'm saying? So it's a whole thing. It's a whole, this shit's been taken for granted. It's been commercialized, and now we have people running into relationships and running into danger and don't even know it because they didn't even check out who the person they're with. So rest in peace to the brother in the main story. I didn't say anyone's names. You can check the story again. I'll put it in the description. Sad stuff. You got to watch who you're with, and you got to make sure that, whatever insecure, and I don't know why this person got engaged with this other person that quick. But you got to just make sure you're not rushing into anything for any bad reason. And don't rush into relationships. If somebody, even if you feel like after a few months, man, I can see myself marrying that person, wait a year before you say it. You know what I'm saying? Wait a year or two. Because if they're really worth marrying, they'll still be there in a year or two. It's that simple, man. That's simple. So last quick topic. I did want to talk a little bit about Texas Showdown. Apparently, I'm in the top 100 players in Texas. I went technically 2-2, even though it was a disqualification. And hopefully that doesn't dox me as to who I am. And technically, I am unmasked on the Texas Showdown stream for a quick second in the crowd. I'm not on the stream. I didn't make the main stage, but I am just in the background for a few brief seconds. I'm visible. So, but you got to find me. It was fun. It was a fun experience. I know it's a hard transition from death into this. That's another weird thing about this content creation thing. So there's no real way out of it. But I did want to kind of just mention that before we get out of here. It was a very fun experience. I am going to do more tournaments. About to do Sunday night games, which you will have seen first because this is coming out tomorrow. And if you didn't see Sunday night games, feel free to watch back the stream. And I don't know if we're going to play Tekken because I'm kind of Tekken out. But it was fun. It's a fun experience. They also announced Lily, which is my least favorite character, today for Tekken 8. Hopefully Lucky Chloe will come back. I highly doubt it. A lot of people say she won't, but I'm holding out hope Lucky Chloe will come back. She got me a win, a tough win against a Kazuya. It was a very fun event. Texas Showdown was very fun. I only went the one day. I meant to go back the other 2 days, and I didn't. Part of it is because anyone knows the Vigilante Mobile is not the most stable car, so that had a bit to do with it. But it was a fun event. I want to do more events. I want to do more tournaments, and I'll probably talk a little bit more about that and maybe some of these other subjects on Sunday night games. And that's gonna do it. That's gonna do it for this show. That's gonna do it for the first episode back for the Vigilante Williamson Show. I hope this format works. Obviously, I gotta work out the kinks on my end, and hopefully we'll do more. In any event, if you like the video, as I go to the mouse to kind of close out when I'm done saying this, if you like the video, please like the video. If you're so obliged to share and subscribe, please do that. But even if you do none of these things, thank you for watching. Thank you for your time. Good night and God bless, or good evening and God bless. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace.